I know it's extremely hard to believe, but we're already beginning Week 10 in the NFL season. Tonight it's the Battle of Ohio as the Bengals host the Browns, and one man who is surely familiar with Cincinnati is our next guest. Of course, as I mentioned, Boomer Esiason. He was the 1987 NFL MVP and now works as an analyst with CBS Sports while also hosting that particular program. Boomer and Carton on the Fan in New York City. Boomer, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll get right down to business. Who do you believe are the teams to watch as we enter the home stretch of the NFL season?
Well, you'd have to probably take a look at Dallas, Detroit, Arizona in the NFC, and don't discount what's going on in Seattle. It's still a very good football team. They're going to get everybody's best swing at them, and they're going to be ready to go. They'll finish strongly here. I'm not worried about that. Over in the AFC, obviously, it's Denver first, and then it's a close second between them and New England. Pittsburgh is starting to catch fire now. Baltimore's still a very quality-oriented team. Here's the thing about the NFL season: it's 16 to 17 weeks. It's a meat grinder of a season. Guys are going down left and right each and every week. They're out for the years, and then you have to worry about which team is going to be healthiest to make that December run. So I think you follow the quarterbacks, and then you look at the players around them and see whether or not they're going to get healthy, stay healthy, and hopefully get some guys back. So if Detroit gets Calvin Johnson back, and now all of a sudden their offense starts to percolate a little bit more, and their defense continues to play the way they're going, they're going to be a difficult out for anybody. So that's amazing. That's the amazing thing about the NFL is that we literally have 2/3 of the league still very much relevant in the run to the playoffs.
Boomer, in a season that maybe no team is a clear-cut favorite, which squads are the biggest surprises to you?
There are two teams, and that's Arizona and Detroit. Arizona is kind of a nondescript team. People really weren't talking about them, figuring that they were probably in one of the tougher divisions in the NFL, being the NFC West. But, right now, when you take a look at their home record, they're 4-0. They're 4-0 in the conference, which is a very important aspect in the NFL down here. So, for me, that's probably been one of the nicest stories. As every NFL coach will tell you and general manager, it's just kind of tread water until you get to December, and hopefully you're playing your best football when that month comes rolling around.
One surprise team to us, perhaps, is the Buffalo Bills. A pleasant surprise. Being based in Ontario, of course, we don't have an official home team, but Buffalo is certainly a franchise that has a huge following. Should we start taking them seriously?
Well, heck, they're 5-3. I would take them seriously, and certainly the addition of Kyle Orton has paid dividends. I mean, who knew that E.J. Manuel was going to go the route of Geno Smith and be an utter disaster, and have the inability to handle all that comes along with being the starting quarterback in the NFL. These poor kids have a wealth of physical talent and physical ability, but they just are unable to transfer what it takes to become an NFL quarterback. I don't know if either one will become that, but when Buffalo recognized pretty quickly that E.J. Manuel was more of a hindrance than he was an asset, they had to go out and do something, and they did it. And they did it by bringing in Kyle Orton, who's been nothing short of a miracle worker to this point. Although I do think Buffalo has some very good skilled players, even with the loss of C.J. Spiller and Freddie Jackson. And I think that he's a guy in Kyle Orton that reminds me a lot of their former quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's playing now for Houston. They're wily vets. They can get the team in the right formations. They can make the right throws. I think they can't make the throws that they used to make when they were young men, but they're getting by on just knowing where to be and how to get the guys in the right situation and allowing the really good players on that team to step to the forefront. The other good thing about Buffalo is their defensive line. It's one of the best defensive lines in football. So if you could stop the run and you could run the ball and limit the turnovers from your quarterback position, you're going to win. And it's one of the reasons why Buffalo right now stands at 5-3. They're not as good as New England. They're not as good as Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I don't think they're as good as Cincinnati. I don't think they're as good as Indianapolis or Denver or San Diego. So right now I would say they're more likely not to make the playoffs. But like I said, meat grinder season, they've lost some players, and who knows, they can catch fire in December and then surprise all of us.
Boomer Esiason, football analyst with CBS Sports. Colin?
And Boomer, who do you think has more to prove coming down the stretch? Is it Peyton Manning or Tom Brady?
They don't have to prove anything to me, man. I'm telling you, they're great players. They're first ballot Hall of Famers. Ultimately, they want to be able to say that they had the winning margin over their competitor when they both retire. And right now, Tom leads that margin. I would also tell you that Tom has probably played with less supporting cast than Peyton has over his career. But then again, Peyton hasn't had Bill Belichick for his entire career. So you could make a case while both of these could be the greatest quarterbacks that have ever played in this game. And all I know is that neither one of them has anything to prove in my eyes.
And staying along the same lines, is it mandatory for Peyton Manning to win a second Super Bowl ring to be considered one of the greatest of all time?
I think it's harder to have great consistency over 16 games than to go out there in a Super Bowl and try to have your best game against the other conference's best team. Like, he ran into a buzzsaw last year in Seattle when he played the Seahawks at MetLife Stadium in Super Bowl 48. And then, I did the game. I broadcast every Super Bowl since 1999. I've seen his performances against New Orleans. I've seen Tom Brady against the Giants and against the Panthers. And both of these guys are great. I mean, let's put it in hockey sense. Gordie Howe is one of the greatest hockey players that's ever played, and hopefully he's going to come through this stroke okay. He didn't win a Stanley Cup, every year of his career. As a matter of fact, when you take a look at the longevity and the consistency of that career is what tells me he's one of the greatest, not just the wins in Stanley Cup playoff history. It's about how he carries himself throughout the regular season. That's how I look at these quarterbacks, and that's why I have so much appreciation and respect for what they do over the long haul as opposed to just one singular game.
We'll stay on the hockey theme. Boomer Esiason, CBS Sports. I know from watching you over the years that you are a season ticket holder to the New York Rangers. Have you always been a big hockey fan?
I have. It goes all the way back to 1968 when I was 7 years old. They opened the new Madison Square Garden down here, and my dad was a huge Ranger fan. And the Islanders were not in existence. I actually grew up on Long Island, literally about 10 miles from Nassau Coliseum, where the Islanders are playing now, where they played back in the heyday of Bobby Nystrom and Clark Gillies and Mike Bossy and all those great teams. But the Rangers have always been my team, and my guy has always been Rod Gilbert. One of the reasons why I wore number 7 as a player is because when I was a kid, I just loved the way Rocket Rod played hockey. So I'm a season ticket holder. Go there, and I know that the folks in Toronto will know that you guys came up and beat us earlier this season 6-3. So don't think that doesn't weigh on me, and I can't wait to play the Maple Leafs again so we can take it out and extract a little revenge on you guys.
Boomer, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Always my pleasure. Thanks, guys. See you, Jordan.
That is the legendary Boomer Esiason, 1987 NFL MVP. He's a football analyst with CBS Sports and the host of Boomer and Carton on The Fan in New York. Certainly one of my favorite personalities on television and genuinely a very nice individual. We'll have more Peterborough Morning Drive coming up after